Hello, everybody, and today is Thursday, September 10th, and welcome to the Snews. And before I um, introduce my co-host, I just want to let everybody know I was having technical difficulties. Okay, it was me, nobody else. It was me, and here is my co-host. His name is Dylan. You know him from Dylan Knows and SnarkAlec Radio and a lot of other stuff out there. And he has been known to have a technical difficulty himself in the past. So, everybody, again, it was my fault. But here's Dylan.
Hey guys, it's actually pretty funny that, well, not funny for you, Tony, but funny that you were having technical difficulties because when I did my 1 year back last September, Jerry sent me this shirt that says Dylan Knows Technical Difficulties. And I wasn't going to wear this originally, but I was like, you know what, that might be kind of cool to wear today. And then, of course, it probably was what caused you to have technical difficulties. So sorry, Tony.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I had a computer that I used to use for the radio show. The hard drive went bad, so it was sitting on a shelf. And so it was sitting on the shelf here where I've been doing just about everything I've done online. And you may remember there used to be a nice assortment of blenders and knickknacks and whatnots all over the place. So I'm going to give you guys a tour around now. There is absolutely nothing in this room that doesn't belong here. So everything that's here belongs here. All my computers and stuff. There's another computer on the other side of the room that everybody else uses and stuff, but I got my office back. So I found this laptop and I said, I got to do something with it. It needed a hard drive. So I had another computer that was not working, but the hard drive was really good. So I took the hard drive and put it in my computer, and it's been working for the last week and a half, 2 weeks without a problem. I even tested it out with Hangouts and it was working. Tonight, I go to start the Hangout. Chrome starts to crash like crazy. When it does open up, the camera's not working or the sound wasn't working, and this all happened. And I didn't come down here early because everything was working when I tested it last weekend. So, and it just goes to show you. I mean, we used to say Thursday nights, if Google was going to throw a curve, it seemed that they would make changes on Thursdays, because we could do something on Wednesday, it'd be fine. The next day wouldn't work. So that's what I've been dealing with tonight. But we've got a couple of things to talk about. We're not going to tell you what we're going to talk about until we decide we're going to talk about it. But the first thing that we always do here is SnarkAlec birthdays. So I'm going to hand it over to Dylan and let him give you birthdays while I start looking at Twitter.
We're starting to get into the section of the year where we don't have quite so many birthdays for SnarkAlec, but we've got 3 in September and 3 in October before our next show. So 3 in September, actually, the first one is tomorrow. September 11th, Real Texan 46, Larry, his birthday. So wish him a happy birthday tomorrow.
And more importantly, it is Brianna's 18th birthday. My daughter's going to be 18 tomorrow, and she can't get her an adult license until next weekend because for some odd reason in the state of New Jersey, it's not your birthday, but it's the date it was issued. So she got her license when she was 17, but it's a provisional license and it's restricted. Like she couldn't drive after 11 o'clock at night and, all that other happy horse crap. So next weekend, she's going to come home from school and I'm going to take her to motor vehicles and she's going to get her big girl license.
Yay. Awesome. Congratulations, Brianna. September 16th is our friend from across the pond, Matt Foster, 2010. Matt, happy birthday to you next week, I believe. And then we flash forward all the way to the end of September, where Lady Sabri, Brienne, the newly engaged Brienne, will be having her birthday on September 28th. So congratulations to that. October 4th is not only River City Otter Jake's birthday, but it's also Dawn and I's wedding anniversary. So hooray for us.
Congratulations. How long has had Dawn been in prison?
Let's see, 12 years. Yep, 12 years, October 4th. So that's when we were married, and then our actual starting to date was 15 years at the end of this month. So,
So when did you actually consummate the marriage? Was that like last week or the week before?
I'm pleading the fifth on that one, buddy boy.
Yeah, well, you got 2 kids, so
Yeah, hopefully we consummated before then.
yeah. Yes, but are you sure she's the mother?
Yeah.
I did that
Nice.
to Amy uh, Figaro. Um, a couple of weeks ago, she was showing everybody that you know, her sonograms, and congratulations to Amy, because that's more SnarkAlec news, something worthy of mentioning. But I said, "Are you sure you're the mother?" And because a lot of people will come out and say, "Who's the father?" And it's like, yeah, but who's the mother? You know. I thought it was funny. Anyway.
It is funny. October 6th is our friend Heather, Stardust 1006. Her birthday is October 6th. And we end up on October 12th with our good old friend Holly. Halls,
Ooh.
H. Wilson 2009 is October 12th. So happy
Sure, she's going to
birthday.
be something like 16 or something like that. But if
Absolutely. So happy birthday to you all. And we will have more birthdays the next time we do this rodeo. So back to you, Tony.
okay, so I have a special announcement to make. 2 weeks from tonight, there will be a very, very special SnarkAlec Radio. SnarkAlec Radio is going to get back together, and we are going to be calling it the Pope Paris Special. Because, as everybody knows, the Pope is a very big fan of SnarkAlec Radio. And he's been getting in touch with me. He's been getting in touch with Mike, saying, "Hey, I'm coming to Philly. We got to get together and hang out, and you guys have to get back together and do a show." So 2 weeks from tonight, on the, what is it, the 25th?
Let's see, today's the
But
11th.
it's 17th, 17th, 24th. The 25th is Sunday. So it is Friday. So on the 24th, 2 weeks from tonight, we are going to get together and we're going to do a well, we're calling it the Pope Paris Special. The Pope will be in Philadelphia starting on Saturday morning and here through the whole weekend. So mark your calendars. There's going to be a lot of fun. I can't tell you that the Pope is going to be on live with us. That's probably not going to happen, but we're going to have a good time with it. So that was a very, very big special announcement. And if you missed it, make sure, or if anybody missed it, make sure everybody knows. Spread the word. We'll start. You'll see some tweets about it soon.
Yeah, I mean, with Mike wearing his nun habit, that's actually very appropriate. So,
just to give you a little bit of insight, we're going to actually spend a whole weekend with the Pope. There's a secluded cabin that we're going to go to. We're going to hang out with the Pope there, and the Pope is he's a very funny guy. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of him. He goes out, he wears all kinds of, like, if you give him a hat, he'll put it on, just as long as it's, acceptable. But, and he'll take soccer jerseys and stuff. He's not he looks like a younger, more vibrant type guy. He looks like the type of guy that you can, he'll kick off his shoes and take off his Pope hat and sit back, drink a beer and watch a soccer game. That's exactly the type of guy Francis is. We've gotten to know him very well, so you'll enjoy the show. It will be funny.
very awesome, very awesome. And for those who missed it, I'm just gonna tweet my own horn yesterday. Yesterday was my 100th episode of Dylan Knows, so
Congratulations.
Thank you, Tony, again for setting that all up for me. So 100 episodes done in the can, and hopefully 100 more to go. So that's what's going on. So anything else you want to talk about today, Tony?
Let's see. Do definitely want to talk about me not watching Under the Dome. There's been some tweets going back and forth because hey, it's the last one. And it was a joke. Like Myrna was like, "Oh, you're gonna miss Under the Dome." I'm like, "Oh man, you want to know something? I've been watching that show just to shit on it for the last 2 seasons. I don't have to watch it live, and I'm gonna tell you, like, if it wasn't for me, Myrna, Scott, and maybe Doug Close and a couple other people watching it, and like I think every once in a while I'll see James Grave Jr. out there, you know, if it wasn't for us tweeting it, everybody else would be like, "Oh, Joe, you're so handsome. Tweet me back." It's all these like little girls that are tweeting these things and asking the most inane questions, and even that has stopped. That's how bad it has gotten. When they say the ratings on that show dipped, I mean, they probably could take the word dipped out and say nosedived. You know, I think. Did you ever watch Wayward Pines? Did you ever get into it
I
at all,
haven't
Bill?
caught up. I want to. It's still on my DVR. I haven't caught up on it yet, but I watched like the first 2 episodes, maybe, I think, and then the rest are on my DVR. That's on my calendar to take
Yeah.
care of. You know how I am.
If you can get to it, hey, it's only 10 episodes. I'd like to get your thoughts on the ending. Um, it it is somewhat open ended now. Night Shyamalan. um, Night Shyamalan is like from the Philly area, so he comes on the local Philly station that I listen to a lot. And when they first got the project, what it was going to be, it was going to be 12 shows. Then they were pushing it to be 16, and they wanted him to really leave it open ended. But it's based on the book. And as they were writing the show, he said they had to stop because he realized at a certain point that they were putting stuff in there just to make the series longer, just to fill the number of shows. And, he had to go back to Fox and say, hey, I think even 12 episodes is too much. Like they were pushing him for 16. Can we just do it in 10? And from what I could see, the show was a major success.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a good beginning. The interesting thing is they don't save it till the very end to let you know what's going on, but the story doesn't end. Like right in episode 5, you find out what the deal is, what's going on, and then you get to the end, and it was a little bit on the fence about how it actually ended, but I really did like the show. And if they were to bring it back and have a season 2 and carry on from there, I would not have a problem watching it, but I would not have a problem saying, okay, one season was good enough for me. My youngest daughter actually got me into watching Scream, the TV show, which
Okay,
is on.
how's that? Yeah.
First couple of episodes, and she was watching it, and I ended up binge watching the first couple. But then I was watching it with her on Tuesday nights, and it ended. You find out who the murderer is, and then at the end they announce that they're going to have a season 2. But before they tell you there's going to be a season 2, there was a couple of things that happened at the very end that if they didn't put those things in, it would have ended right there, and you would have been like, wow, that was a pretty decent show. So they left it open-ended, but they left it open-ended because I guess they had been renewed for a second season. So there is going to be a second season of Scream, the TV show. If you can find it on demand, I would definitely, if you've got nothing to do. You see, the problem is during the summer, there's not a lot of good stuff to watch.
Right.
And well, let's face it, I don't watch a lot of TV. I've been watching Doctor Who. It's been on Netflix because on demand, for me anyway, the only thing that they have is the first season of Capaldi. But on Netflix, you can go all the way back to the beginning. Well, not the beginning, but you can go back to
the
Rose.
new series with Eccleston and Rose.
Yeah, right. That, Eccleston and Tennant and Smith, and so now I'm in Capaldi. Now I'm halfway through 2000. Now, did they stop after him? Like one season of Capaldi, or is there more?
No, the new season actually is starting next weekend. I think the 18th, 19th, is somewhere around there. They're having their ninth season starts that whatever that Saturday is. So let's see, today's the 10th, 11th, 12th. It would be the 19th. So the 19th of September is the first episode of the next the new Doctor Who. So you're going to hit it just in time. You'll be able to watch them live.
I'm gonna have to finish. I'm gonna have to finish then. So listen, see, for me, Doctor Who, the Doctor Who that's on Netflix, and the Doctor Who that we're getting now is much different from the Doctor Who that was on when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, it was black and white. It was really crappy sets. I mean, the one thing that they have retained, because I remember the Daleks. Okay, one of the things that hangs off the front of a Dalek is actually a plunger. Okay, and they left it, which is awesome. But I mean, back in the day, Daleks looked like a garbage can with any kind of shit that they found lying around, and put a couple of lights on it, and okay, that was a Dalek. But it was, I mean, if you compared the Doctor Who that was new at the time compared to a Star Trek that was older than that and in color, okay, compared that to Doctor Who, it made Doctor Who look like crap. And it was back in the day. The new stuff is pretty darn good, you know. And I just happened to run across, like, it suggested to me, hey, you might like Doctor Who. And I saw all these episodes, and I was like, you want to know something? Let me watch a couple. I watched the first one. I was like, you want to know something? It's not so bad, you know. I watched a couple more, and there's some episodes where I was like, but you know, for the most part, I'm having a big problem with a couple of things that have happened in some of these later seasons more than what happened before. But you know, that's a totally different conversation. We could do probably a whole show on Doctor Who, and maybe we will.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert. I know there's people out there that have seen these episodes over and over and over and over again. That's not me.
And also has seen all the older stuff as well. Bronwyn's good at that. She's got a lot of Doctor Who knowledge in that, and I think there's a few other people as well. I've gotten them on my show a few times as well for Doctor Who shows, so they're out there.
Yeah, and like I said, with okay, here goes one big problem. Okay, so Amy and Rory get sent back in time by the Weeping Angels. Okay, how come Doctor Who can't jump in his TARDIS and get him? Like the way they ended like that. Like it seemed to me.
Isn't it something like where it becomes a fixed point in time when they do that, so he can't go back and get him? I think there's something. I think I'll have to catch up on that, but I think there's something like that where, because that's what their power is, you can't actually go back and save the people because it becomes like a point in time, or they send them back to points in time that you can't grab them from. I don't know. I'm just throwing theories out there.
So one of the things that happened was, at one point he looks down and he sees Rory's name on the grave. Okay. And he should have got out. But I mean, that whole, like, it just seemed, because now when you take that, okay, and up until the end of that season, we were still seeing Rose, you know, even though it wasn't really Rose at the end, you know, in that last one. We still see, like, Rose came back, you know, from the alternate universe and all this other crap, and I just couldn't understand why he couldn't jump in his TARDIS, because it didn't seem like it was an impossibility. You know, I know you can't go, you know, keep on crossing your own timeline and stuff like that, which, you know, hey, watching Doctor Who, I am suspending my disbelief that time travel is impossible, only for the simple fact that there are some physicists that believe that every time you get to a certain point in your life, well, not every time, but at every second, you make a decision. Okay, when you make that decision, you branch off from a timeline, and an alternate universe is basically created, or an alternate possibility exists, and that happens and happens and happens and happens, in infinity, and it'll make your head explode.
It's true. Time travel's tricky in all kinds of storylines. You have to set a certain amount of ground rules, and you've got to stick with them if that's what you're going to be talking about. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Any little thing that we do supposedly creates an alternate dimension, and it spirals off into its own thing. It might eventually sometimes crisscross, but you're not. I might have. I don't have a drink here, but I could have had a drink here. But I decided not to. So when I decided not to have a drink, I'm living this pattern now. But there's another offshore. I said, you know what? I want a drink, and I grabbed it, and I'd be drinking right now, and we might be doing this in an alternate dimension.
Well,
so yeah,
the way I've heard it described is when they talk about like a parallel universe. There's a universe that's right next to the universe that we're in. And everything in that universe could be exactly 100% the same, except somewhere along the line, somebody may have picked a red car instead of a green car. Okay. And then that causes that parallel universe to diverge from us just a little bit. Okay. Now, in some cases, there's different, there's other more impactful things that happen. There could have been somebody on an operating table, and in our universe that person survives, but in the alternate universe that person ceases to exist. Well, that creates a cascading effect down through history because that person died here and not there. You know what I mean? So enough of
real quick, just for the alternative history is a very interesting genre in books now, and they've almost started. It's in the science fiction section. They pretty much started taking over their own section because there's so many of them. I can't think of the guy who's written the most of them, but there's the one about what if aliens invaded during World War II, and all the Axis and allies who are fighting each other actually now have to join forces to take on the aliens. Or what if someone from the future time travels back in time to the Civil War and gives the South machine guns? Or Uzi.
Is it Harry Harrison? Because I've read the books.
It's Harry Turtledove.
Turtledove, right. Him. Yeah. Harry Harrison has done some alternative history also. Or is there... Harry Harrison, yes, has done some. Okay. But Turtledove, I've read those. Alternate history, which is great. I read. I think Turtledove wrote a book that was called The Two Georges, and it's set in an alternate history universe where we did not win the Revolutionary War, and it's in modern times, and we're all British subjects, which is an interesting thing because everything is basically the same, except the Queen is in power, and actually in power, not a figurehead. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. What could have been the whole World at War series, which is what you were talking about with, in the middle of the Second World War, alien invasion happens, and that keeps on going. That comes up into modern times too, which is more interesting stuff. But so we started this conversation by me saying, hey, I don't watch a lot of TV. I mean, up until recently, there was nothing on. Okay. And the thing that screwed things up was Fear the Walking Dead, because The Last Ship which is a really decent show for a Sunday night and for the summer, was really good this season. I think I may have liked this season better than the first season, and there was conflicts between that and Fear for the first couple of weeks. So I was watching that later, and then 10 o'clock is The Strain on Sundays, and that show is, just basically out of control. Um, but that's all I've been watching. That and Face Off came back on, and Under the Dome was just, hey, it was a throwaway show.
Did you never get back into Defiance?
Oh no, I finished Defiance, but Defiance finished. Defiance,
Yeah.
and is it still? They didn't bring that back yet, did they?
No, it's still up in the air right now, but that last episode was phenomenal, and it was if Sci-Fi decides not to renew it for a fourth season, I'll be okay with it, because I like the show and I wish it would go on for another season, but they sort of finished everything. They have, possibilities that are still out there, but I like how it ended. I really enjoyed this season of Defiance, because to me, Defiance has always been sort of a roller coaster for me, because I don't know if you remember when the first episode came out of the first season of the first episode, I was railing against. I didn't like it, and I stuck with it, and eventually the first season got better. And then we got into the second season, and the second season was it was okay, but it wasn't phenomenal. And then I was like, okay, let's just see what they do with the third season. And this third season was just amazing. I think I loved every episode of this season. And the ending especially was a very good coda. If they're not going to continue it anymore, I'm satisfied. I'm okay.
One of the reasons that I'd love to see another season is because Daytech was just unbelievable. The character was unbelievable this season. And Stama, hey, they're the best couple that have hit TV, I think, since Lucy and Ricky. Okay? Because they had made me laugh and say, oh my God, and I can't believe this is on TV. And I can't believe it was on 8 o'clock.
No.
Okay, so maybe we weren't treated to some of those bath scenes. I mean, there was some early in the season, but we weren't getting the stuff that we were getting in last season when Daytech was in prison, and he was looking to get handies from everybody left and right. I mean, there was one show where it was Stama. He wanted it from Yule. He's just like, okay, someone's got to take care of this for me.
No, I agree totally. I thought Daytech was MVP this year. He was amazing this year, and just going through, he had one of the best character arcs in this season, where he starts off, he's respecting I can't think of his name right now, the Indian, his father, not his father, his brother-in-law, I guess, not his brother-in-law, no, played by Graham Greene, the Indian. I can't think of his name right now. The miner. Rafe, yes, I'm sorry, thank you. Showing major respect for Rafe, and then when Rafe passes away, Daytech and Stama have to play, okay, we're with the VC, we'll do whatever you want. So they're ordered to be terrorists. So they become terrorists into Defiance, and they do it not because they want to, but they're afraid that something's going to happen to their son. And then eventually they get caught, and then other things happen, and then they come back, and they are able to make up for what they did. It's just a fantastic, amazing story arc this season.
I just when Stama, when Ramtar asked her or told her to kill her daughter-in-law, it did seem that Christy was kind of all right with it, because she knew it was going to save her baby. But I was like, you got to be kidding me. how do you do that? I mean, but um, it was a funny season. Nolan was a little bit. Nolan and Arissa. And now I want to know, in your opinion, have they? Did they unmake Arissa up a little bit?
They did. And when you noticed that, I think it was the first or second episode, and you tweeted that out. I started noticing a bit more. I was like, yeah, the brow wasn't as pronounced as it used to be. It was much softer, and it looked like it was just a little. The makeup was very minimal, as it were, and it still worked for her because I think she still had the darker skin and the white patches under the eyes, but just it wasn't as prominent. Now, the only thing you could maybe make a case for is that maybe as her race grows up and gets older, maybe they tend to soften. They're sharp and deep when they're younger, and then as they're starting to get older, maybe it starts to flow into them a little bit more. But no, you are absolutely right. When you saw that first or second episode, they totally undermade her this season, and they never explained it really.
Well, I don't think they were going to explain it. I mean, it was kind of, I don't want to say it was subtle, but there was enough where I was like, hey, they definitely, and it may be been a couple of things. She may have said, hey, could you make me look more like me? Or, cutting down on the budget means that a little bit, lessen the prosthetic that you're putting on, lessen the amount of time that she's got to sit in a chair, to have the makeup, applied. And that ends up being a little bit of a cost saving. But, and out of everything that happened in the last episode for Defiance, the one thing was that little, that last scene with, Alec and Arissa, where it seemed like he's looking at her saying, and she's kind of looking at him with those big giant eyes going, and so if they got together, would they have like yellow babies? Like, would they be just yellow? Because like she's orange and he's white.
White, and you think in between.
Yeah, so it just like toned down orange. But I think if they were going to do another season, they may focus on that. And who knows? Maybe they leave Defiance and they go someplace else. Maybe you don't know. But then if they left Defiance, I don't think you'd be able to call it Defiance anymore. But they could also do something where it's like, hey, it's 5 years later and they're in Defiance, and Defiance could be a totally different place. Like, Amanda could still be around, Daytak and Stama could still be around, and they could bring in, after those core people, they could bring in a whole new cast, and it's like, 5 or 6 years later, and you could age Rafe, Alec a little bit. The little baby would, be
5-year-old now, 5-6-year-old,
or be like, Dick Carl age, like 7 or 8, But Scott McDonald says that, Daytak and Stama are no Lee and Morty, and I'll agree, but they killed Adina. I liked Adina, and I liked Berlin, but we'll see. I mean, it seems like Sci-Fi is going to try and do that whole Friday only shows. I mean, they've been showing movies now, but they're going to go back once Z Nation starts. It's going to be 12 Monkeys and Z Nation, which is a pretty strong lineup for them.
And then they still have a bunch. They still have a bunch in their wheelhouse also, so we don't exactly know where things are going to line up eventually. With if it's going to be back on Friday, or they're going to pick another day, and hit them there too.
Well, they've got a. I mean, it seems almost like they've got, Face Off is on Tuesdays, and that's not going to move. Award winning, Face Off now. Wednesday is Supernatural night. Nothing's going to happen on Thursday because it's wrestling. So, I mean, I don't know what they do on Monday. whether or not they're throwing movies up on Monday now, but I can't see them moving it off Friday. I can't see
Yeah,
them
no,
moving to Saturday. I mean, because it didn't work when they tried it before.
yeah.
Uh,
I wasn't saying. I'm just saying they have. They're probably going to keep doing that because they have so many series in their wheelhouse. They can keep it going and have it completely fresh, 52 weeks of the year. You know.
yeah. Well, that's kind of almost what AMC is doing in that Sunday uh, evening thing. One show ends, they put another one in. Um, so we'll see. But I'd like to talk about fear, and I was kind of taken aback on Sunday. Like I was expecting a fresh new episode, but then again, I was happy that we didn't get one because it was the last ship's finale, which is a good show. So I would like to hear, because we have not spoken about this, I would like to hear what your thoughts are on fear to this point.
Um. Now with and I'm going to preface this by saying I understand what they're doing. I do get what they're doing. It's the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, so things are going to be a slow burn. You're going to see things moving at a slower rate, building the tension, building things up. And I think that was the problem, is that a lot of people, when Fear the Walking Dead first came out, the first episode, and I'll admit it, I didn't like the first episode because I thought it's too slow. These characters are awful. You only see in the hour and a half, minus with the commercials, you only see zombies maybe twice, and the rest of the time it's just building the characters and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, great. And then the second episode came up, and I'm watching it, and it's like, okay, it's the same thing again, but now they're starting to build it up a little bit more. There's more zombies, there's more tension, there's more things happening, the blackout, the riots, things are starting to happen. And then when the neighbor attacks the other neighbor, and that's when the shit gets real. And then I sat back and we're sitting there, was like, you know what? I didn't like this, but then I started thinking a bit more. I was like, you know what? And I started thinking over the course of that week after I watched episodes, like, you know what? I actually can respect what they're doing, and I actually, from looking at the perspective, as making it as a slow burn as possible, and that it's going to gradually get into the insanity that is Walking Dead. It works, and I like the fact that every week something bigger else is going to be coming. I mean, for Sunday's episode, from the previews we've seen, unless it's a red herring, one of the zombies gets in the house with the kids and the wife. So that should be interesting. But the problem is, and Scott McDonald pointed this out also, is that the characters are not great. I mean, and maybe that's the point also. Maybe you're seeing the beginning of, people, as we all know, people change in the zombie apocalypse. People who were law-abiding, friendly, nice, good people are now evil, disgusting, perverted versions of themselves because they've had to survive through this horrific apocalypse. So an apocalypse will change you. So maybe that's what we're getting to. Maybe they want you to not really like the characters, because when you start seeing them reacting and changing, when the apocalypse starts becoming more prevalent, maybe then you'll understand that, this is why, they start off as being self-absorbed or whatever, and now they realize that was bad to do that, and we're paying for it now, and we need to, try to figure out a way to survive. This is my point of it. I'm still with it. It's 6 episodes. I'm still with it. It's all fresh, brand new stuff. So it's kind of nice not to know what's coming. And also I like seeing the slow, and as I said, I'm starting to go back and I can, and that's one of the perks of being able to watch things over and over again. You can go back and relook at it again and look at it from a different perspective. As I said, I hated the first episode. I didn't like the second episode, but then something snapped inside of me. I started thinking about it a little bit more, and then I started realizing, you know what? It's actually not bad. And moving up. So go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say something. I just made the mistake of looking at the IMDb, and I am one of those people that I don't go looking for spoilers. I was just looking for a cast member's character name, and this has got to be either inaccurate or there's going to be something that happens that is really crazy. Because who we think are the main characters are only credited on IMDb for 6 episodes, but Ruben Blades and the girl who plays his daughter are credited for 7 episodes. So I don't know how they can get away with doing that, but I'm going to agree with you and I'm going to disagree because I'm one of those people where I wasn't expecting much from the first episode except for, hey, here's the characters. Somewhat like Defiance. You know, Defiance, they threw a lot of stuff at you right at the beginning. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what you can expect from me. And they did that with every character. And they threw it right out there in your face. But they did have a large cast and they didn't waste any time doing it. But there was too much of it. Okay. I don't think that first episode really needed to be an hour and a half long. They could have done all of that character development or given us the backstory, which explains, like what you were saying, why they were self-absorbed in an hour. One of the things that I expected them to do was have those news reports going on in the background or like the radio chiming, and while something else was going on, they were a little bit more subtle with and if you go back and watch episode number 1, because I noticed it the first time, but there's a couple of times when they're in their car and they're driving by this park, right? And at first the park is full, then the park is empty. And then after the park is empty, you see tents and stuff, like little shanties. But there wasn't a lot, but there was stuff happening in the park. Okay. And it was stuff that you probably wouldn't have noticed if you had your mind on something else, like a kid that's ODing on drugs. One scene with Tobias and the knife where the kid is, he's spouting conspiracy theories. I'm trying to figure out if, he's the one that is bringing the news to us about what's going on, and or was this just a way of introducing this guy so when they bring him back for episode number 2 back at the school, we know who this kid is and we know he's a believer. Characters, Scotty said he hates the characters. I don't hate them. I just don't like them. I mean, it's a, let's quote unquote, modern family, interracial, both have kids from previous marriages and stuff. So they both have those issues going on. They almost have a stereotypical daughter, and they could have cut the boyfriend totally out, and they could have used another method of trying to get her out of the house and she doesn't leave the house. I kind of like some of the other things that they did where, they know something's going on. At this point, they know something's going on and they see the lady across the street setting up like a bounce house or something, and then later that night she's getting attacked. But the one thing, and when you talk about a slow burn, one of the things that I think is brilliant, and we'll have to see if this prediction is true going forward. But in the second episode where they have the incident where the son's name is Chris, I think. Travis's Cliff's
Yeah,
Travis's son is Chris.
It's Chris. Yeah, the one
Okay.
who's
who's at the incident where the homeless guy gets shot. Okay, and they're at one point they're watching the video And I don't know if people realize that, the mother and the father were there where the shooting took place. They were on that highway, where they were on that exit ramp where that shooting was taking place, where people have the cell phone video and they have the overhead video of the guy going after a cop, an EMT, a firefighter, and the cops are just shooting, shooting, shooting. And then they have the cops have shot a quote unquote homeless guy in downtown, and now it's being reported as police brutality or another police shooting. And in today's media environment, that plays up to hiding what's really going on, where, hey, this guy may have been a homeless guy, but he was probably a zombie, and that's why he got shot. But we don't know that, and the people there don't know that. All we know is everybody's on social media. Cop shot another homeless guy downtown. And then, one of the best scenes is when the kids are in class watching that and the girl says, "Kill shot, bitch." I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I do. It is going to be a slow burn. But you see, the problem is that there can be no slow burn, because once something like that is almost like a devastating outbreak of the flu or the plague, where you've got for the most part, let's say you had something that had a 90%, death rate, kind of like what they're dealing with in the last ship. Get to a certain point where society breaks down. And the reason society breaks down is because there's nobody or not enough people to do what needs to be done to keep society moving. Okay. How long can a power plant produce power if there's nobody there? Okay. You get to a certain point. Now, I'm pretty sure that there are certain power plants that are, let's say, gas fired, natural gas fired. They've got a pipeline. Something like that can produce power for just as long as the gas is coming down the line. Okay. Other power plants are coal fired and oil fired and need a supply of fuel, and they need people to do stuff. Gets to a certain point where once you lose power, that's it.
Yep.
Society goes right downhill.
I mean, even when you said the ones that are done by gas and might not need as much care about, but what if something happens? Something's going to break, something's going to fall in there. Who's going to repair it? And you got nobody to do it. And then before you know it, there's your power source is going to disappear then too. And I think I agree with you. When they always show those, here's what's coming in this season of Fear the Walking Dead, and they started showing all the different clips, and it just starts going absolutely batshit insane. Which I think you're absolutely right. I mean, they're getting to that point right now where you've got the blackout, you've got the riots right now, and then you ended on the episode with the neighbor attacking the other neighbor, and then you're going to spiral into another bigger spot where, okay, more and more people are starting to show up dead, or they're starting to show up this virus and walk around, and then more things are happening, and then more people are going to start figuring out what's going on, and more people are going to try to get out of Dodge. So it is going to gradually, it's going to build and build, and it's going to go even faster. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if the next episode, the slow burn starts. You might get a touch a bit more, but you're going to start getting more into the fast pace. All right, here's the end of society coming right now.
Yeah. And Gail, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was done.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Laura Loves Tobias is the only likable person. I like him. I actually, as soon as he stops with the Parkinson stuff, I call him Johnny Depp because he looks like Johnny Depp. The older son, Nick.
Yeah.
I like him. But getting back to, you gotta look in the background of this show. I mean, there was a scene that a lot of people pretty much probably overlooked, but Travis is driving through, and I don't remember if he was with his wife or if he was on his way to go try and get Chris by himself, but he looks over and there's a cop in uniform loading up
Mm-hmm.
water in the rear of a police car. There goes your first piece of society starting to fall away, because there goes a cop, for some reason, thinks he needs to stock up on water. Okay. Now, you would think, of course, because we're stupid people in the public, things need to be kept from us. Okay. And I am not a conspiracy theorist. Um, I don't believe in most conspiracies. I think, with some of the stuff that I hear, dude, it's just a lot easier for the truth to be the truth, and not for, the government to go in. And you want to know something? The government has had a problem keeping a lot of things quiet. There's certain things. I mean, um, we can do a whole show on that, but
No, I agree
the
with you. I
simplest explanation is usually true. I mean, and again, I'll go back to a couple of years ago. Okay, we had Hurricane Sandy up in this bitch. Okay, and I'm nowhere near the shore, and I don't want to make it sound like I went through any kind of hardship. I didn't. We lost power for 24 hours. People in the next town up were out of power for 7 to 10 days. They had the bad power company. I had the good power company. But the day after the storm, I was out and about, and there were one or two people who were flipping out. And at this point, we had lost power at about 7 o'clock, and the storm was still raging. Okay. This is like 7 o'clock the next morning. We still had no power. Less than 12 hours later. Okay. And there were people that were in a huff that they had to get on a line that was going out the door and spiraling around the block at 7-Eleven to get a hot cup of coffee. And then they were complaining that people were getting 4 big cups of coffee. Okay. Oh, how could he do that? He's getting 4 cups. I went in there, I got myself a cup, and the same people that were complaining about everybody else getting 4 cups of coffee were getting 4 cups of coffee. Okay. Well, if you think that they shouldn't be getting 4 cups, why do you think you're entitled to 4 cups of coffee? I was happy to get myself a cup of coffee. I didn't know when the power was going to get back. Luckily, I got power back less than 12 hours later, and I didn't lose any food. I didn't, suffer any really big hardship like other people did, but I saw people starting to fall apart. I saw people fighting. uh, from my house. If I was to climb a fence and walk about a quarter of a mile, there's a gas station right on a main road. Okay, the line was about a mile and a half long, and people were fighting online to get gas. Okay, if they would have come around the corner and driven 3/4 of a mile, there was 4 gas stations that all had gas that didn't have any lines. And but the people over here were fighting over gas. It just boggled my mind. So it should, it should spiral down quickly, and it seems like it is, because not quickly, but it'll be a couple little things, but then it should exponentially get bad. Um, I think they have a bad plan, because their plan is to go to the desert. I think that usually deserts don't have water in them. So, um, they should find some place that is less populated that has water. Um, Desert, not a good place unless you bring lots and lots and lots and lots of water with you. Um, but we'll see. Maybe we'll do something in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll do like a Monday thing. Um, After we get a couple episodes in, maybe we'll do like something every other week in between, like the snoozes.
hmm
Um, and we'll catch them. But there's only how many episodes? I thought they were only
There's
doing 6.
they're only doing 6, so it's going to go till October 4th, And then that's going to be the season finale. And then October 11th is the season premiere of Walking Dead, their new season. And then what's going to happen then is Walking Dead is going, because Fear the Walking Dead's already been renewed for a second season. That's why Ruben Blades has 7 under his title. So then Walking Dead is going to do their typical 7 episodes, whatever. And then from what I've heard, I'm not 100% certain, but from what I heard, what AMC wants to do is then they're going to slot in the first, because the Fear the Walking Dead second season is like 15 episodes. So they're going
So they're going to do another 8.
Yeah, they'll do that to fill that time frame, and then they'll have their half, mid-season finale, and then we'll get the second half of Walking Dead, and then we'll get to their season finale, and then we'll get the second half of Fear the Walking Dead, get their season finale, and then the new season of Walking Dead starts. So that's what their plan is. Now, I don't know if it's going to work entirely, but that's what they want to do. And if they throw these, well, we're not going to do it this weekend because it's a holiday weekend, or, we're going to do a marathon of something else, or whatever, or throw in this is what you missed in Walking Dead, and you need to see this to get caught up. If they do one of those, then you might be able to conceivably get 52 weeks of zombies. I don't think that's going to happen, though, because you got Christmas and you got all this other stuff going on, and it just, I don't think it's feasible. But that's their plan, anyways, to try to make sure that we at least lessen the amount of time between zombie shows. So maybe, it works out similarly. I mean, maybe after, like, say, Walking Dead has their season finale, maybe Fear the Walking Dead only gets like 4 episodes left, and then they have their 4, and then you have like a little break for another 6-episode new series or whatever, and then you throw in Walking Dead again. So but their plan, from what I've heard, is that's what they want to do. They want to try to make zombies take over Sunday and try to have them at least almost very
well. I mean, if they were going to do it that way, like what you're describing, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, if both series get a 16 episode season, that's 32 weeks, and that leaves them 20 weeks without zombies. But you can get 16 weeks of zombies and then get a break, and then start 8 and 8 again, like you were just saying, and you've got, what does that leave? There's 52. So like I said, it leaves you 20 weeks. They can have something else fill in that slot. I mean, they put 10 weeks in between seasons. I mean, and if one starts filming, and that's probably what their biggest challenge is now, because Nicotero is involved in both series, so that would make him a very, very busy person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that would be their biggest challenge, because at certain points you probably would have both of those shows in production, which, you could wear both hats depending on where they're filmed. But if you got one being filmed on the West Coast and one being filmed on the East Coast,
it's not as easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that easy. But did you see, excuse me, before Fear started, did you see Hardwick's show where he had?
No, I skipped that. No.
Okay. Interesting, because Hardwick brought up the kind of movement away from the comic, and how Gimple was like, yeah, well, we're doing the best we can to, steer it back towards the original narrative as best they can. But they admitted it's impossible for them to get it at this point 100% the same, because, hey, they, because there was that falling out, and hey, Andrew dead. Andrew not supposed to be dead yet. but again, getting back to the show, I mean, well, I'm gonna make a couple of predictions about certain events that are definitely going to happen. Daughter is definitely going to do something stupid, and it's not going to be related to her current boyfriend, because it may, but that's not going to be her first stupid thing that happens. I think Nick is going to, once he kicks his his addiction here, he's gonna be all right. But somewhere along the line, he's gonna have a slip, and it's going to happen at exactly the wrong time. You can almost see some of these things that they're, you know, it doesn't even have to be set up. The guy's a friggin' druggie. He's going to slip, you know. Um, and this is the kind of stuff that we don't know about the characters in the original show, because we don't know anything about them before. We only know what happened um, after and during from some of the flashbacks, but I think we are so far down the line that we'll probably never see another flashback.
Well, with the exception of, well, maybe not too far deep, but they're going to do Morgan's. They've already announced that they're going to show how Morgan turned from being the guy we saw in Clear to being the badass Zen monk that he is in the season finale. So we're going to see that. They've already announced that that's going to be one of the, I think it's going to be the first half of the season. So we'll probably see that in the next couple of weeks, sometime probably November, probably maybe late October. We'll probably start seeing.
And there's going to be people that complain about that crap. And, you know, I can't, like Morgan is badass. And the sense that you get from what we've seen of Morgan from the short time he's been reintroduced to us, he is definitely a man that has his priorities, and he is probably more of a he's probably the most humane character they have so far. So I wonder if that's going to be one of those things that can potentially, I don't know. Was actually talking about this with Mike today, and it seems to me that early Rick, when it came to certain decisions, was really hesitant, and he'd struggle and struggle and struggle. The Rick that he is, he shows up at this town, this guy's beating his wife, he's got to go, and he doesn't have a problem taking him out, and it's because of everything that they've gone through and everything that they've seen. Hey, this is a weakness, and everything is judged between, does this make us weaker, or does it make us stronger? And Rick's headset is, okay, I need to surround myself with people that I know if anything ever happened to me, that they'd be looking after, Carl and little ass kicker. And just as a side note, Zach is a bigger dick than Carl ever was. That needed to be said. I've tweeted that out, and it needed to be said. And snoozes is more than one snooze, and I am not sleepy. I might look sleepy, but I'm not. If I was sleepy, I'd just say, hey, Dylan, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. You can't even see my eyes because there's like a reflection off these glasses. So you can't even see my eyes. See?
They must be only talking to you because I didn't see that.
Yeah, Smyrna is just talking to me. So snoozes are more than one episode of Snooze, which only happens once a month. Okay. But I was surprised, and I didn't even realize that they weren't going to show a new one. I was looking forward to it,
Well, they announced it. I mean, at the end of the second episode, they said in 2 weeks.
I wasn't paying attention because
oh, you were over the strain probably already, so you probably might have hooked over the strain by then.
I flip over to the strain, but one of the things that they did after the first episode was they showed, as you were saying, scenes from coming episodes, not next week, but they were, and there was some stuff with some guys dressed in military gear and stuff, and people running and screaming, and I just didn't want to be exposed to any of the what I could consider spoilers. It's almost like them previewing um, next week's Face Off, like them showing like a quick little snippet next week's Face Off before the person that gets knocked off is announced. And if you take a quick look, you try and see who's there. Who's still there? Okay, Nora's still there. I like her. Ben's still there. I like her. You know, so um, it's one of those things where it's like, please don't do that. Like why? Um, I don't need to know what's going to happen next week. I think they, in a show like The Walking Dead, it does us no justice. Now, if you're watching one of those crime shows, one of those cop shows, and you want to find out what the crime is going to be about next week, it's one thing because they're really good at not letting you know what the crime is. You know, um, that's kind of why I almost missed. Well, almost I do. I miss Columbo because Columbo was a brilliant show. You know, they showed you the guy committing the crime, okay, and you really had to figure out what the mistake was because the mistake was what Columbo was gonna figure out how you did it. You know, and so with Fear too, and uh, I'm glad that it's doing well, and again, there's some people expecting, hey, um, in the first episode of The Walking Dead, there was zombies and stuff, but he didn't make it to downtown Atlanta until the second episode, or he was just getting there at the end of the first. So there was no hordes and stuff, and now what I want to see, and I'd be interested to see, is how they handle the zombies. Um, because this is going to be at the beginning. So if you remember back to the long time ago first season, okay, those zombies were fresh and they were running. Okay, they stopped running after the first show. So after the first show, after the first season.
Mhm.
So we should get some fresh zombies. And I'm just wondering whether or not we're going to get some of the stereotypical zombie hordes where it's like, okay, there's one guy that looks like a doctor and there's another guy that looks like a businessman and there's a high school girl in a cheerleading outfit. uh, I hope they avoid some of that. I mean, like there's got to be like a teenage zombie with the earbuds in, that's shambling around. We got to see some of that stuff, but it'd be interesting to see how they handle it. And there's, I wonder if they're going to get out of LA only to minimize the number of zombies that they're going to have.
That makes sense because LA is a freaking big city. And if everyone starts getting affected by this, yeah, you're going to have an insanely amount of zombies, and that's not going to be feasible, I guess, on a budget for a TV show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, realistically, Southern California, I mean, from LA south, it's almost one big city. It's worse here on the East Coast, though. I mean, you go from Boston down to DC. There's like it's like 2/3 of the, well, I think 2/3 of the country, 2/3 of the population live on the East Coast, from Maine down to Florida. And then the other 1/3 of the population is west. So, I mean, uh, they had some pretty decent crowds in Atlanta, and Atlanta is, no small city. LA, that's why see LA. The only good thing about going out into the desert is, if you get on one of those little sandy hill things, you'd be able to see them suckers coming from miles away. You know, um,
You need to go to like Montana or Idaho, which has like less people, even though it's a bigger state, has less people per capita. So I mean, it's much more, and they have more wilderness. So you're going to be able to find more water and animals to survive on, and food and stuff like that. That would be the ideal place, probably be out there.
Um, Less population density, always good. You find yourself one or two warehouses full of food, not a lot of people competing to get that food, you know, um, as opposed to East Coast, Hey, fact, if your local supermarket stopped getting deliveries today, that supermarket would be 100% empty by Sunday. 3 days. Most supermarkets only have enough stuff on hand on a daily basis to last for 3 days because the uh, products go out and new products come in. But if they stopped getting deliveries today, 3 days. And there's certain other things that would go quicker. I mean, hey, something like that happened. The first thing you do is you go in and you try and get fresh meat and stuff. Okay. And you eat that stuff up real quick. You get the pasta and the rice and the canned goods also. But I mean, hey, get the meat. Eat the meat while you can still eat it. Or if you know how to preserve it, smoke it and do that other stuff, you got to do it. But not that I would condone people going out to their supermarkets and just stealing stuff because there is not a zombie apocalypse scheduled for any time soon. Oh, so I was at my brother-in-law's, okay, and he was saying some kind of nonsense, and I've heard this before, um, that there's these like 4 or 5 stocks that if you would have purchased those stocks at the beginning when The Walking Dead first came on TV, that you would have had a 400% return on your investment. And he started naming some of the stocks that had gone up. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. And he said, why doesn't it make any sense? I said to key it to The Walking Dead, because if you would have gone back one more year when Obama got elected, from the time that Obama got elected, companies like Smith and Wesson, who make guns, okay, their stocks jumped because people started buying guns like crazy, not because of a zombie apocalypse, okay, but because they felt that under that presidency, there would be a lot stricter gun control. So people are buying guns. Okay, a lot of people felt that maybe he was weak as far as foreign policy and he could get us into some trouble. So there was companies that sell prepackaged food for, let's call them survivalists. Okay, they also, now these are the same companies that if you went back, one more year, okay, that's when it started. Okay, so it had nothing to do with The Walking Dead, and the last thing I said to the guy was like, I'm not stupid, believe me. I mean, you could tie it to The Walking Dead. I think in more reality, I would tie it to politics and what's going on in the country. But um, the only investment I would make in Smith and Wesson would be to actually buy a product and not buy their stock. Because if a zombie apocalypse happened and I wanted to sell my stock, who's going to buy
it? Exactly.
Okay, I'll buy the gun and the bullets. I ain't going to buy the stock. It doesn't make sense, for people to invest because of a TV show. Okay, and he tried to explain to me, well, people invested because, no, people invested not because they felt that stupid people we're going to think a zombie apocalypse happened. People were going out and buying guns, not because they were afraid of a zombie apocalypse. Okay, that was one of the things. Like the day after the election, they was talking, and gun sales have increased 35%. And I mean, I don't know if you remember hearing that, Dylan, but I remember them talking about it on the news. You know,
Maybe
at
not
least,
in in that specifics, but it's similar here in Maryland, where our former governor O'Malley passed this really strict gun control that wasn't going to go in effect until the new session happened, like in October or whatever. So from the point where it got passed, like in May to October, it was just the insane amount of people on a wait list to get guns that the people who were doing the background checks had to hire people on top of other people, and they still weren't even making any headway into getting the background checks in. So what they had to do then is, when the law passed in, like, say, October, when the new laws go into effect, there were still a bunch of people on the books from before then that still hadn't had their background checks in there. So luckily, the local government decided, we'll give them amnesty, or not amnesty, but we'll apply them to the previous thing. So we'll lead them up to that point. But the minute that you get the first person, October 1st, who wanted to get their gun in there, they get this strict new gun policies thrown on them, their new background checks, and new stuff like that. So that's where I heard most about it. But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, because, yeah, I agree with you totally. It's not about a TV show. Very rarely does a TV show create investment opportunities, I guess, is a proper term.
And this guy was trying to be someone who was trying to come off as relatively intelligent, and you know, smart investors are not gonna invest in anything based on a TV show. Now, there are some politicians who got into politics possibly based on a web show, and Dylan doesn't know this, but Donald Trump put his hat in the presidential ring because of the Snews, and I'll explain to you why. See, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, but if you remember, Dylan, I want to say back in maybe April, or it could have been March or April, we had a discussion about aliens, but we were talking about the extraterrestrial type, and Donald Trump kind of heard that conversation and changed that into people from South America and other countries. So I think I want to put this out to Trump now. If he's going to be fair, Dylan and I were talking about extraterrestrials. So I want to know what his position is, and my suggestion would be we need to set up customs on the moon. That way, any aliens that want to come here, I mean, they can go any place else on the planet if they want to, but if they want to come to the United States, they have to go through customs on the moon. We'll let them go through customs there, and then they can come straight in. Because we also need to, worry about the extraterrestrial alien problem that we have. It's getting a little bit out of hand. So the Pope used to listen to SnarkAlec Radio Potpourri 2 weeks from tonight, and Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure, watches the Snews. But there's one other thing that we have to talk about, and we just totally ignored it because we talked about all this other good shit. What's going on with SnarkAlec Fantasy Football? And I should actually go on see. I don't even know if I have anybody playing tonight. I don't think I do.
Yeah, I got Roethlisberger going today. So sorry, Laura, we're getting ready to talk sports. So if you want to mute us, you can.
Oh, before we talk about sports, one last thing. She did say Fear is doing webisodes. She thinks it's about zombies on a plane.
Oh, I can tell you about that, Laura. I'll explain to you what's going on about that. From what I gather, it's not really going to be webisodes. What's going to happen is, when The Walking Dead returns October 11th, there's going to be a segment in between. During, usually where there's a commercial break, there'll be this little 2 or 3 minute segment of a bigger picture, because basically what's going to happen, it is zombies on a plane, and what's going to happen is, this is going to harken back to Fear the Walking Dead, because from what I heard, one of the characters in this, there's going to be a bunch of them in this mini series, is that what they're calling it, is going to become a regular on Fear the Walking Dead in season 2. We just don't know who it is yet. That way, they're not telling, because they want it to be a surprise. So that, from what I heard and from what I read, I can reread and look around, but from what I heard is that they're going to be doing these in between the Walking Dead episodes, like when the commercials are. There's going to be a segment they're going to keep doing it where instead of a commercial, they're going to play this like 2-minute segment, and so it's going to be all through. I think it's going to be, if you think about 16 episodes, say about 2 minutes each. That'll get you 32 minutes. So basically, it'll be one 32-minute show.
It's like an episode. It's like a show episode because to tell you the truth, people, if you don't know it, the episode of any show is around 44 minutes long. There's 16 minutes of commercials, and it all depends on how they chop them up. But there's a regular TV show is about 44 minutes. So if they're going to give us 32 minutes of programming, and that's 2 minutes less of commercial every episode, I'll take that. Unless they're going to make the show 2 minutes shorter.
Right. That I'm not sure. All I know is that they're adding this 2 minutes, 2-3 minute segment, whatever it is. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And it's going to and it's going to entice people to watch it because it is going to introduce a main character in the second season of Fear the Walking Dead. The thing is, not the joke, but the thing they want to do is they want to surprise you. They're going to have a number of characters, and one of them is going to be the new character on Fear the Walking Dead, and you're not going to know who it is till the end of the episode. That way you will be surprised when it happens, or if one of them dies and stuff like that. So it is going to be zombies on a plane. Yes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Wow. That's interesting.
Talk about chocolate. No.
Is that Myrna? Because I'm not actually.
I love Scott. I love Scotty. They were talking guns and my ears perked up.
Got my damn gun to shoot a damn zombie in the head and snakes.
That's a good one too. But yeah, I'll be real quick. Tony and I have been discussing on Snark Fantasy Football that we've been wanting to maybe increase the point totals a little bit for the people who are playing. And so I have a way to do it because I'm the commissioner. I can go in, I can mess around with some of the stuff, change it to specific things. So I took some of what Tony was suggesting and I added some of my own. So I'm just going to run this real quick. One of the first things I did is when we set the league, 2 years ago, I pretty much kept with they hadn't already pretty much a set. These are the set totals, and I kept it for that way, and I just kept going like that. At the time, as of last year, the passing a passing touchdown by a quarterback who threw a touchdown, you would get 5 points. I figured, you know what, let's up that to 6. Touchdown, 6 points. Let's up that to 6. At the same time, I'm dropping. It was, every time that it was either the quarterback threw for 25 yards, he would get 1 point. I dropped that down to 20 yards. So now you're going to be, if you get 20 yards, you'll get a point instead of 25. So it gives you, a better opportunity to get more points out of it. I've also added. Let me see if I can read my handwriting.
First downs, rushing and receiving.
I will get to them in a second, son. Just relax. For the quarterback, I added a 40-plus yard completion. So if he throws a 40-yard pass and someone catches it and it's 40 yards, and these are just points that I just arbitrarily threw. I didn't want to have too many of them. 4 points for that. I figure 44. Yeah, it makes sense. 4 points for a 40-plus yard completion. Now, for a 40-yard run by a rusher, if a rusher breaks one and runs 40-plus yards, that's also 4 points. If he rushes for a first down, I'm only giving 1 point, but you're going to get 1 point for every first down you get because you could get a whole bunch of them, working your way across there. Passing-wise, or rather receiving-wise, I say if you receive the 40-yard, you have the quarterback throwing 40 yards, you get points. If you have the receiver catching it and running that 40 yards, you're going to get 4 points on that as well. And then once again, you're also going to get, if you have a receiving first down, you'll get 1 point also. So that adds that there. And I added this one because I thought this was actually pretty good to your defense. If they create a fourth down stop, because they don't always go for fourth downs, but if someone tries to go for try to get 4th and 1 or whatever, and you stop them and from getting a first down, I figure why not give him a point for that, because you pretty much, you're changing the tone of the game there. And another one that I decided that would change the tone of the game was I also decided, what, I'm going to add a negative point in this one. And this is if your quarterback throws a pick six, which means that interception, run back for a touchdown, you're going to get 3 points knocked off. The quarterback's going to get 3 points knocked off.
Yeah, I mean, there was points off for an interception, and if it's a pick six, that's a big blow to your team. And
I didn't want to knock 6 off because that would just be a little crazy. So I took half of it. I said -3 is a good thing. So you get 3 points knocked off. Now for the bonus yards, I did go 3 for all of them. But my numbers are slightly different than the ones you suggested, Tony. For receptions, for every 100-yard reception or every 100-yard receiver you have on your team, you'll get 5 points. For every 150-yard receiving person you have on your team, you'll get 8 points for that week. And for every 200-yard reception, you'll get 10 points. Because nowadays, let's look at it, it's a more quarterback throwing the ball down, so you're going to have a better chance of getting those numbers, particularly since it's become that. Now with rushing, I sort of dropped the yardage down a little bit because a lot of teams are going to two-person tandems, so you're not going to get your 100-yard rushers quite so much as you used to. So I said if your rusher gets 80 yards, you get 5 points. If your rusher makes 130 yards, you get 8 points. If they do 150 yards, they get 10 points. And then for quarterbacks, if they pass for 275 yards, they get 5 points. If they pass for 300 yards, they get 10 points. They pass for 350, you get 15 points. And let's face it, that's pretty damn good, because if you've got one of those, arm guys with the big arms, I've been seeing 375s, I've been seeing 350s, 325s, so you can get some extra added points to that. So right now, those are the points that I added to it, along with the ones that we had already. So it should increase the point totals exponentially. But at the same time, it's going to make things a little bit more interesting, I think. And once again, I can change it anytime I want to. I prefer not to change it during the middle of the season. So let's say if we don't like it for whatever reason, I don't want to go in and change it back to the way it was, because some people might have won their games because of these things. And it wouldn't make them moot, but I mean, at the same time as, well, I don't have the chance to recoup that if they're the loser, So we'll stick with it for this year. And if it needs to be tweaked or whatever, which it probably will be next year, again, I'll retweak it then. So,
well, the thing about the way you change the scoring is, what I like about it is, hey, if Peyton freaking Manning has a 300 plus game and he throws 4 touchdowns and he throws a couple of 40-yard passes, he's going to really rake in the points. But there's going to be more points going to those receivers also. So it just puts more, and I think more points mean more fun when it comes to the game. And the thing is, I didn't see it in the stats, so there is no quarterback first downs, correct?
Yeah, there is.
Which is great. Okay. And first downs, like you're saying, and one of the reasons I suggested it, you may have, the second back. Okay. You may not have the number 1 back, but you may have the number 2 back. And sometimes the number 2 back is the guy that gets those short yardage runs. And, a guy that may only get you 40 yards rushing a game, you wouldn't start him. But if he gets 4 first downs, now you're getting 8 points out of the guy. And, at least he's a viable start at that point, instead of, if you're just looking at stats as far as rushing yards, he may be the guy that they give the ball to on the goal line also. But, hey, you don't know. But if you've got a guy that's setting everything up, he got 3 first downs. He only got 12 yards carried, but he got 3 first downs. Why not get the first down yardage? If you've got a decent receiver, and also plays into, with the receivers for first downs and stuff, 2-minute warning. okay, you can have a guy that you started and maybe he's only got 7 or 8 points. Okay, he may only catch for another 20 or 30 yards. But if he gets a first down and goes out, and a first down and goes out, and a first down and goes out, okay, and kept the drive alive so they could get down the field and get a field goal or win the game, you know, it definitely helps out. And I think people are going to be happy with the outcome of so how many people do you got going tonight, Dill? Just one?
I just have one, because the funny thing is I'm glad I checked my lineup again this evening, because Reggie Wayne had signed with the Patriots, and I needed a wide receiver because Victor Cruz is going to be out for at least the first 4 games, they said, with his injury. So I had him already starting, and I didn't really have I wanted to just get, I could probably put one of my bench guys in, like a Michael Crabtree or whatever, but I wanted to have some backup just in case. So I wanted to see who was still out there, and there's Reggie Wayne. I was like, okay, cool. So I grabbed him. I was like, you know what, he's still got some stuff in him, and he's going to get passes from, Tom Brady. So it's like he's getting thrown to by Peyton, So I was like, I'll start him and see if he gets some points. So I'm talking to Dawn today, discussing the point totals with her. And I say, hey, let me just check, my score, see who I got running. And I look there, and I look down, and I see projected points for Reggie Wayne, 0.00. I was like, okay, that wasn't there yesterday. So I clicked on the note, and he's like, yeah, he decided he didn't want to be a Patriot anymore. He didn't like the atmosphere he was entering. Maybe it's the whole Deflategate, Spygate, cheater thing that's been going on around him. He didn't like how things have been progressing. So he's asked to be released from the Patriots. So he's not going to be playing. So they already had him projected 0.00. So I dropped him, and I picked up somebody else, and I think I started. I picked up former Packer who's now on the Dolphins. I think I forget what his name is, but I put him in there. He was still up there.
Dude, I don't understand. You could be on you're going to be on a Super Bowl contending team. Okay. And the thing about the Patriots, it's their way or the highway. Okay. There's a lot of discipline in that locker room. And hey, if Belichick wants you, he's going to get you, and he thinks that he's got a spot for you where you're going to fit into his system, and or he knows how to make you fit into his system. Okay. And it's just mind-boggling how this guy says he doesn't want to be a Patriot. I mean, keep your mouth shut and do as you're told. Your wife is doing pretty good.
She's got Brady as her starter, so.
Yeah, I passed on him. Like, you want to know something? Because whenever I've had him, okay, if I had him, okay, the score would be flip-flopped. It'd be 11-21, and it would be Peyton freaking Manning having actually, he ran for 2 first downs.
Oh, interesting.
Well, okay, wait, hold on. 3 attempts, 1 rush, but 2 first downs. Am I reading that right?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been.
I'm just looking at his stats. I'm like, okay, so it looks like he's got 2 first downs. No, it's not receiving. It's under rushing. But if he's got 3 attempts and 1 yard, I mean, he could have had a couple of half-yard runs, but quarterback sneaky.
Yeah, it could be.
But I mean, the stats, the changes. I think a lot of people. Has anybody asked you, or did you email the league about the changes? Or
I wrote a commissioner's note, and I think somehow that gets connected to the emails. I think.
Yeah, you get an email that says, "Hey, a new
commissioner note." Yeah, so I wrote down, said, look, I made some changes to the scoring, and told them the same thing I just said. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, I could change it then halfway through, but I'd rather not, because it would kind of screw up what the first half was, and people who lost but could have, could have won if they didn't have that points that they did now, that type of thing. So I don't want to get into all that. But one thing I did do that was kind of interesting was this is the first year I decided to customize the schedule, and that was I'm never going to do that again.
Okay, so I didn't know the schedule was customized. Please explain this to me.
Well, no, I can do it. What happens is when you have a fantasy football league, you have as the commissioner, you have the right to either have Yahoo set the schedule because they have a specific, like you have 15 games and then you have your 2 playoff, it's 15 regular season games. Then your playoffs are 2 weeks. So week 16 and week 17 are your playoffs. So you have 15 weeks and you have 12, say you have 12 people in your league and you have divisions like we do. It's going to be like regular NFL where you're going to play the people in your division twice and then people in the other division once. However, because of the uneven number, 15 weeks, everyone is not going to play one person. So I think in your case, you're not going to be playing maybe Jen Hallmeyer this year. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just giving that. You might though, Tony. I don't remember. It was just an example. I don't remember the minutia about it. It could be Scott. I don't remember. I don't remember who it is. But so they have they had the schedule already says like this is how it's going to work. We're going to pick this person. Tony, you're not going to be able to play Jen. Dylan, you're not going to be able to play Mandy. Dawn, you're not going to be able to play Kelly. Stuff like that. But then I went in there. I was like, what? Let me just mix some stuff up around and maybe make some theme weeks or whatever if I wanted to make it interesting. Like week 2 is going to be Dawn and I facing off against each other, and Jan and Scott, who are married, also facing off against each other. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a husband-wife like a rivalry thing. And then for the first week, because Jim Gaglione won last year's fantasy, I came in second. Scott was third, I think, and Crunch was fourth. I said, why don't we just start off the season with a rematch of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? So I'm playing Jim this week. Crunch is playing Scott this week, and then I scattered the rest like that. So I just, instead of going with what Yahoo said, I just said, okay, I'm going to put this person here. I'm going to put this matchup here, and try to make it a little more interesting. But once you get down to like week 10 and week 11, if you're not as anal as I am, you're going to be totally lost. So and it took me a while to organize it so that everything worked out perfectly. So I'm happy with the way the schedule worked out. I kind of like it. I think it works out really well. And once again, that's something else that I can change very easily. And I have no problem if, maybe we get down to the wire and say week 15, which say maybe your team and my team are competing for the last spot in the playoffs. And we're not playing each other. Maybe I could say, hey, Tony, you want me to have us have a face-off to see who wins, make it more kind of, this is like our Super Bowl, whoever wins this goes to playoffs, whoever doesn't goes home, that type of thing. We could do that. I could always do that. Or if I decide, there's teams that seem to, when they're playing each other, they like are so close together. Like the points are like 144 to 143 every time they play each other. Maybe we can get them to play another one, a close one again, just to make it more fun. But as I said, I've worked it out so that everyone in their divisions play each other's twice, and then they play everyone else once, with the exception of one person. So. Okay.
So, and is it random? Like it's not going to be kind of like the way baseball is, where you have, like the week where it's interdivisional play, or is it just totally random? Where
I was trying to do that, but it didn't work because of the way that I have to have, all right, this person is playing this person, and you have to have that one person where you're not going to face this year. And if you've set up the perfect schedule where you have interleague play type of thing going on all week, but then the only way you can work it out is to have this person play the person you're not supposed to, then everything has to get started over again, because that's not how it works. And I picked them at random, but I could do something like that if I wanted to, and I tried to, but it just didn't work because of the way I had already set up. And if I wanted to, I probably could have fixed it, but that would mean I had to go back to the beginning and change the entire schedule again to lead up to that. So it's not worth it. So I just basically played random. My one thing I try not to do is I try not to have okay, you and I play each other in week 4, and you and I play each other week 5. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to spread it out a little bit more. Now, there's going to be times where there might only be like 3 games between each other. So you might play week 4 and we might play again like week 8, something like that. But that's just the way that the schedule worked out.
That hardly ever happens in the NFL. I mean, it happens occasionally where they'll have like a home and home type thing, which they like to do in hockey. And it happens sometimes in baseball where a team will play a team at home, and then they'll go on a road trip. And guess what? Either be the first team or sometimes the second team that they face on that particular road trip. They like to do that a lot. And Yahoo is like really, really freaking slow. Everything else is working fine. Yahoo is just, everybody must be like, oh, let me take a look at my team.
Exactly. See how it's going. But yeah, I just wanted to try this year to see what it'd be like. I probably won't do it again next year because it was just so complicated, and I had to actually redo weeks to fit how I had it set up. I mean, I could always have said, I'm the commissioner, I can make the rules. I said, okay, well, I wasn't going to play Jan this season, but you know what? I can just say hell with that. I won't play Scott this season. But then I was like, but you know what, though? I kind of want to play Scott, so then I got to say, well, then I don't want to play AJ. And then I was like, well, no, I want to play. Yeah, so I have to try to figure out where I pick one person. Like, okay, that's just the way it is, and then we'll see if it works out. It works out. But that's one of the fun things about being commissioner. That, and also I can set the draft order also if I wanted to too.
Yeah, and the only thing about the draft, I mean, the keepers. I mean, I think we should do away with that. But that's my opinion.
I might drop 2. I might drop it down to 1. I'm still contemplating that. I think 2 might be too many, because I'm in a league, another league that has 1, and that works out pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so far so good. I mean, hey, I haven't lost a game yet, and you got me playing Kelly first friggin' game. Thanks, appreciate it. So I mean, that would have been something that played into your next week's little thing. Married couples.
I think I have you playing Mandy next week. So.
Oh, you got me playing the pink-haired floozy. Awesome, thanks, appreciate it. I tell you the truth, I didn't even look, and it's so slow. Like, I had Stat Tracker open, and that is opening real quick. But I just wanted to see, like, So, oh yeah, now I got to do the Snickers commercial again. You got to be effing kidding me. Anyway, yeah, no, I mean, I was like, oh boy, I could have just come over here and looked at my team and seen the stat categories. And when I saw, because I saw a list, and I didn't know if some of the stats that were up there could be receiving and rushing. Like, they didn't, like, the list that I was looking at didn't mention receiving and rushing. Now, way back in the day, first time I ever played fantasy football, they had some of those things turned on, where it was actually the things that you added. First downs were there, but I think they only had first downs for rushing, not first downs rushing and receiving. But hey, like I said, it's fair, because if I'm playing against Peyton Manning, but I got a receiver that makes a couple of first downs and blah, blah, blah. And where under our old rules, maybe he would have had maybe a 12 or a 13-point day. Now he's having a 19 or a 20-point day because he got some first downs. He got a 40-yard catch and stuff. That helps eliminate the power of the quarterback, and it helps tone down the explosive running back. Because if you've got a guy that generally gets 2 or 3 10-plus yard runs, okay, and I got a guy that slogs around 4.5 yards a carry, he's going to be getting some first downs where you're going to miss out on some first down points. And is the guy that doesn't rush for 150 yards as valuable? Hell yeah. If he's down in the trenches and he's getting first downs and keeping a team alive, he's, a guy that puts up 60 hard yards is just as important to your team as your number one back who's rushing for 100, 110 yards a game, you know? Um, so, like I said, more points, more better.
Yep.
And who's tweeting at me now?
Myrna's saying that she's going to bed, I think, because she's not in football thingy.
Yeah, and Myrna, you wouldn't want to be in the football thingy because it's just too football-y. So,
I would love to just set up a league and have Myrna and Lara and Mike and people who just don't care about football, and just have them see what it's like and maybe have some fun with it. I think that'd be kind of fun to do.
they'd have to have a half a clue. Because, I mean, one of the reasons that I like fantasy football and that I'm in it is specifically, I really like football. If we weren't doing this, I would be watching the game. I wouldn't watch the whole thing. I'd watch at least the first half. But on Sunday, and I said this before, I get the New York channels and I get the Philly channels. So sometimes I get an extra game that they're showing in Philly that they may not necessarily be showing in New York. And I get to watch an extra game, I feel. And if it's two teams that I really don't give any kind of crap about, and at the beginning of the season, everybody is going to the Super Bowl. Okay? Everybody has that potential. I mean, realistically, no, but hey, right now it's a clean slate. The record is 0-0. Everybody's got an equal chance to get to the Super Bowl. But I need something to give me just a little bit more interest in a game. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, if I'm watching my Jets and they're playing against a team and that team has one of my guys, I'm rooting for that guy. I still want them to lose, okay? And I want them to lose 35-31, unless they're playing Buffalo, which the Jets will, and I have the Buffalo defense. Then I want the Jets to win 3-0.
No, that's cool. And that's the other thing also what I like about it too is watching my Ravens, you get the clicker at the bottom and they've added, sometimes fantasy stuff, but you watch the clicker and it's on all the time now. So you see the score updated all the time, and then it gives the stats and you're like, oh wait, I've got, Andre Johnson. So they say A Johnson, has 10 catches for 150 yards. Oh hell! And I can go. Then I go to my fantasy on my phone. I was like, holy shit, he's got like 20 points. He's kicking ass.
So, Dylan, so I mean, I will do it only if I'm away, because the nice thing about the Yahoo Fantasy Football app is you can click on any game and see what's going on in any game. You can get to see the stats. So it's a lot better as far as I'm concerned, because I've used the NFL app to check in on games and stuff. And I think the Yahoo app just works a little bit better. Like if you want to go to the real game and get the stats. But I sit in front of the TV with my iPad. First generation, Yahoo Fantasy still works there. I mean, the only thing I will do with it is follow my team. I don't make any changes on it because it crashes and, the thing is barely alive. But when it comes to fantasy football, I can just prop it up, leave it there, and I can real time look at my team on the iPad. But I may end up using this little guy because it's a tablet too, because it separates from the keyboard. So I might use this thing because it is a little bit quicker than the iPad. I don't know, but if I'm home, I've either got a laptop open or my iPad. Like my iPad will be sitting right next to me because, listen, hey, you might want to plug your kids' ears, but I will take the iPad to the shitter with me, if it's football season, and I will sit there with the iPad and I will be following stuff when it comes to that. See, this time of year, it's a little bit tough because there's still stuff to do outside and, but it's football season. So you gotta love it.
Gotta love it.
So we didn't get a chance to talk about places with weird names. Are we ever going to get to that? I have a feeling we'll never get to it. It'll just stay there, and stay there and stay there. But we really should wrap this up because this is after 11 o'clock.
It is after 11. I got work.
So what do you got going on as far as Dylan knows?
Well, yesterday, just the way things worked out, was my 100th episode. It was my first part of my 7-part Harry Potter one with Karen Derulo, who was on the Comicosity Hangout. She's also a huge Harry Potter fan. So we're going to do the book and movie and talk about each one, starting from the beginning. So we talked about Sorcerer's Stone yesterday. October, we'll talk Chamber Secrets, so on and so forth. So that wasn't originally what I wanted for my 100th episode. But so because it worked out better for her, it turned out to be that way. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be doing an extra show on Sunday at my usual time. And I'll be doing the first part of a 2-part episode, the 101 movies that you might not know about or might have seen once but don't remember type things. It's a bunch of movies that I've come up with that I don't know if people remember ever coming out, but are actually pretty good. Might want to check out. I'm going to take like the first 50 of them on Sunday and just go down the line, say these are the movies you check out and why. And then I'm going to do an episode on Saturday the 19th with the second part of it. And then I'm thinking I might do an MJ Con comic episode on the 20th. So that's what I got upcoming. And then because of Brienne's engagement and Amy Figaro's pregnancy, our international show, the last Sunday in September, is going to be Geek Shower. And we're going to just be doing geek shower stuff for them, babies and weddings and stuff like that. So
it's getting sexy there for a second. Ooh, taking a shower. Ooh,
so that's what I got. Yep. And so then that means you've got your we've got the Pope. You guys got the Popapalooza, so that's excellent. Or Potpourri.
Potpourri.
I'll get that right.
Potpourri. And maybe in a couple of weeks we'll talk about it offline. But maybe after we get, let's see, this will be 3, 4. So maybe after episode 4, which will be 2 weeks from now, we can do something on fear, because we spent a good hour on fear tonight. So if that continues, we will just fill up. We will fill up the Snews with zombie talk. So maybe we'll do something every other week for fear, so we don't have to do that in the news and the Snews, and maybe just maybe we'll get to that weird place names thing. But now that I think about it, my goal is to never ever get to that. And just as long as we have that on the back burner, the topics guru is unemployed. So not that the topics guru needs to be unemployed, but you know.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that, I'll say goodnight. And so yes, 2 weeks from today is SnarkAlec Radio, Potpourri, 9 o'clock. Dylan, I'm not Dylan, Mike, Kelly, and not the Pope will be here, and there'll be nobody standing in for the Pope. So I'm going to say not the Pope. I don't mean like, oh look, this is Francis, not the Pope from the Vatican. That's not going to happen. So this is going to be prior to the Pope's visit to the Philadelphia area, and hopefully in a couple of weeks. So if that's the 25th, so what day would be the Monday? 11, 12, 14, the 21st maybe. The 21st would be the Monday. We'll talk about doing something. Hey, maybe like 8:45 to 9:30. Have a wicked weird time and screw people up. If that works out. And hopefully next time I have my because we didn't get a chance to talk beforehand, so I'll have my technical difficulties ironed out by then
I
this
won't wear
other
I
thing.
won't wear this shirt again. So
Well, I think I'm going to retire this one too because this one didn't work. Like the mystical pyramid thing for the Pink Floyd just didn't work. So anyway, good night. Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate you hanging out, and I will talk to you soon.
all right, take care, guys.
Good night, everyone. Oh, wrong one. This one. This one's got to stop it.